I was almost giving you spoilers. Sorry about that. Hey, everybody. This is Liz. If you haven't watched this show before, this is Focus Locus Presents from Northampton Open Media. We are very excited tonight to be hosting Greg Purcell and Ish Klein from The Problems Show. We're going to watch 5 episodes of The Problems Show. It's a great series. It's like a very bite-sized series. They're all under 10 minutes. We air them on Channel 12. I believe right now it's 7:30 on Tuesday, Thursdays, Saturdays. I will double check on that. But I've been airing it a lot, and it's a really interesting, cool show that I feel like reminds me of things in the Valley that I miss very often. Sort of poets in the Valley that I haven't, and poetry in the Valley that I haven't gotten to engage with since, last March when we were all sort of, when everything was sort of stopped, but not yet not stopped hard enough. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to read the description. The Problems Show is a mostly weekly internet show filmed live with an audience. It's filmed on Zoom, where one person has 5 minutes to vent their problems. It was created so that I can find out what other people are going through, and its aims is to provide an outlet. The guest's problems may take the form of works of art, song, conversation, the straightforward fetch, theater, and drawings. And if you check out the Facebook event page for this event, there's information about how to try and participate and write to Ish and see if you could be a fit. But there's 15 episodes, which is incredibly impressive. It's always cool to see when projects like this are able to, have longevity. And it's all on YouTube. If you search Crypt Problems, KRVT Problems, KRVT is Kalamazoo River Valley Poets Theater, which is a clone, is what the description says, but is sort of an offshoot of the Connecticut River Valley Poets Theater, aka Crypt, which several of the participants in the show, the guests on the show, are also a part of. So I'm very excited about this. Please, if you are watching and you are on Twitch or Facebook or YouTube, send questions. I think this will be a very interesting one, and I want to make sure that we get really to the root of what a cool show this is and talk about the production. So without further ado, I am going to play The Problem Show. See you guys soon.
It's 2:05, so I think we're going to start the show. Hello, my name is Ish Klein, and this is The Problem Show, a production of the Kalamazoo River Valley Poets Theater. Today, August 23rd, 2020, we will be hearing from Caroline Bell Stewart and Jonathan Volk. Caroline is a fiction writer and teacher who lives in Massachusetts. Her work has appeared in various journals, and she is a member of the Connecticut River Valley Poets Theater. Jonathan is a fiction writer who lives in Western Massachusetts, and he is a former and future member of Crypt. He's working on a novel. So, Caroline and Jonathan, you think you have problems?
Yeah, we got problems. And one thing we just want to say before we talk about them is that there's an accessibility feature on Zoom. If this screen share is like too small or too big, if you go up to view options at the top of your screen next to the green bar, you can change like the percentage. You can zoom in or out. So just FYI if you're having trouble seeing.
I won policy too. That was amazing. Well, that was it. I'm so proud that you're part of this, and for taking the reins of Crypt with a C. You are the heart and soul of Crypt, and I can't wait to see what other stuff you do. Well, that was Crypt Problems, the problem show, Crypt with a K. I'm going to say, if you have and you want to go to send, please email. I'm putting up the sign. Can anybody see it? Anyway, that's KRVP. Oh, sorry, is it coming through? Hey everybody, that's KRVPT problems, that V, at gmail.com. And that was, if you want to make your problems semi-public, just email me. And I've held up the sign. Next week we'll be officially broadcasting from Kalamazoo, so that we will really be the Kalamazoo River Valley Poets Theater. And I sign off wishing you all health and happiness until next Sunday. And I am your friend, Ish.
Ask me if I have any problems.
So Greg, you think you've got problems?
Yes, I have like 40 of them. I've made a list. First, Kalamazoo, dishwasher, China Inn, 1988. It was my very first job. It was the job where I learned how popular Chinese restaurants were on Christmas Day. The owner called me crazy hair. Paper delivery, the New York Times. This is something I helped my mother with after her divorce. We'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. This was in 1988, same time I was working at the China Inn, and we would deliver the New York Times by car. Dishwasher, the Portage Pub. This is after I graduated high school. It was a bar and grill right behind my high school where all the teachers went. I washed dishes there. and they would ask me how I'm doing. Baker, Martini's Pizza. Martini's is a very good place, a pizza place here in Kalamazoo, Michigan. This is in 1992, by the way. Portage Pub was in 1991. I'm not sticking to the formula. I'm going to try to. Martini's Pizza had made some of the best pizza in Michigan. In fact, it was a place that Muhammad Ali used to go to regularly. He is Southwest Michigan's most famous resident. I was told that I had vision but lacked focus, a fair judgment. But I was then demoted, and I quit in a huff because I didn't like that assessment. Telemarketer, Rainsoft Water Company. I was a very good telemarketer for a while. This is 1992. I was a very good telemarketer for a while until I wasn't. The reward for being a good telemarketer was that you would get invited to the manager's place for what he called jungle juice. I was never good enough for that. Sandwich specialist, Subway, 1992. I made sandwiches. It was a terrible job. They had something called a Gus Mackey tournament, a big basketball tournament. My bike was stolen and I was so mad. I quit and never came back. I was a canvasser for Michigan Purge, an environmental organization, in 1992. I was fired after 2 days. I was again a sandwich specialist at Subway, 1993. This was at a different Subway. I was fired for taking 5 or 7 loaves of bread, threading them together and putting them in the oven to make a massive loaf of bread. They caught me on camera and fired me the next day. Car wash scrubber at the Bunka Car Wash. We're still in Kalamazoo, by the way. This is 1993. Short order cook, Fourth Coast Cafe. I was also a barista. The job started at 12 at night and went to 8 in the morning. I made omelets. Then I was bumped up to barista, more normal hours. I was fired because the place was a big meeting place for NA members and AA members. And we were caught smoking a joint. Everyone was fired. And then hired back, except for me. I'm going to try to go a little faster here because I've already used up 3 minutes. I was a sandwich specialist at Jimmy John's in 1994, a pump attendant at Checkmart in 1994, fired for turning the cash register receipts into paper dolls, a baker at Klein's Bagels in 1994. In Chicago, I was an intern at the Chicago Center for Book and Paper Arts. While I went to school, this was in 1995, I was a bookseller. My first book-selling job at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago, 1997. I was an art reviewer at the New Art Examiner in 1999. I was a temp worker at various places in 1999. Too many to count, but this was a glorious time for temp workers. You just got to sit in the chair and work. I was a mail clerk at the Palmer House Hilton in 1999. I was a biographer for a scientist named John Hutchison in 2000 in Seattle. And then I was a temp worker for a place that was not PayPal in the year 2000. In Chicago, I was a marketing writer for a place called Recycled Paper Greetings, a proofreader for a place called The Buzz Company, a bookseller at Prairie Avenue Bookshop, temporary help during the Christmas season. I know I've gone over, I'm going to keep going. Bookseller, St. Mark's Bookshop, runner-up prize winner at the Illinois Arts Council in 2003. That was $700. Proofreader, Blackstone Investments, 2003, fired. Bookseller, St. Mark's Bookshop, 2003. You may go online and see what happened to St. Mark's Bookshop. It was an ignominious death for that wonderful bookshop. A teaching associate at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, 2010, an instructor at the University of Amherst, 2013, a painter of things, 2013, this never makes me any money. Fiction writer for Monstrous Affection, my first paid fiction writing gig. Temporary associate at Pearson, my worst job. An instructor at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst University Without Walls, in which I listen to people and I hear about their jobs. An instructor at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst College of Engineering. An instructor at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst Department of Social Thought and Political Economy. An instructor ongoing at the University Without Walls in Chicago. A writer for Super Summary Guides. A painter of things, and now an associate at Wild Birds Unlimited. That didn't quite go the way I wanted it to, but what I wanted to illustrate is that I've had over 40 jobs in my life, and all of them have been some sort of problem to me.
You don't explain it away, but I think the volume communicates a lot. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to do the outro. Dear friends, thank you so much for joining us on the show. If you have a problem, and we'd really love to hear from you, we would love it if you would email us. This is crypt, krvptproblems@gmail.com. And any final words, Greg Purcell?
Only that we don't have anyone lined up. People are being very shy about talking about their problems for 5 minutes. So we implore you, please.
I don't say implore. We don't want to put the pressure on, but if you know anybody with problems who doesn't have an outlet, why not forward this email to them? You know, no pressure. The idea is that, I don't know if you feel this way, Greg, but when I did it, I felt relieved after. Did you feel that way? I guess not. Did you feel relieved after you did the 5 minutes? Maybe you will after. Can you hear me?
No, it was, it all was going to go much differently in my head. It was all going to be much different.
Well, you did a great job.
It's really hard to read 40 jobs over the course of 5 minutes. I thought it would be easier than that.
Well, now, yeah, great. Thanks, Mandy. Yeah, that was a great job. Okay, well, I would like to salute everybody and end the show now.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Hey everybody, hello and welcome to The Problem Show. Okay, Katie is an interdisciplinary artist specializing in dramatic performance and the written word. Her eclectic theatrical training from Naropa included Locus, physical theater, ritual theater, Tibetan movement, meditation practices, Afro-modern dance, ballet, and vocal training from the Roy Hart Theater. Her experiences as a whole, combined with extensive travel and continued studies in meditation, have largely been a process of letting go of ego and surrendering to play. So, Katie, you think you've got problems?
Yeah, Ish, I've got problems. I've got real big problems. I think that my first problem right now is that I have more problems that can fit in 5 minutes. So I made a list of all of them, and I'm gonna read the list so that you have an idea of the intensity and variety of the problems, but then I'm gonna go through and talk about each one, and I doubt we'll get through all of them. Okay, so the list. My problems. So first of all, a baseline of pandemic unemployment, severe anxiety, and I have hypochondria. Fires and evacuation as we're moving, the sink, cottages burned, fire down the street, Amy's problems, knife, psych ward, dementia, restraining order, question mark, mom doesn't remember Aunt Mary, I told you so syndrome, 401k, no money, found out at the Corn Palace, gambling, question mark, my contribution to money loss, severe depression, suicidal thoughts, backcountry camping, fighting, plant juggling, vixen screaming, the sink again, money, unemployment, work, question mark, more fires, cottage did survive, that's good news, that's one of the good news pieces that we'll get to in the list of problems. Cottage did survive, no power, no water, no clean. If I whisper, can you hear me? Trump defenders in this house, Trump defenders. Toxic air, stuck inside all the time with Trump defenders. sun literally actually blocked out, plants near death, nightmares make me afraid of sleep, too much cheese and junk food, parents' Wi-Fi, and then the last thing on the list of problems is that really I am actually fine. It's fine. Okay, so I have severe anxiety and hypochondria, so the pandemic has been really difficult for me. I had like a severe mental breakdown in May that resulted in the doctors trying to put me on Zoloft, and I had a bad reaction to the Zoloft where I had suicidal ideation. And so they had to take me off of it. I was having heart palpitations. I had to have all of this work done and go to the hospital, and I now owe a ton of money and hospital bills. I won't go too into that. I'll just say that's like the baseline from which all of the rest of the stuff is springing. So I was running out of unemployment. I was the only one in our household who got unemployment. So I was supporting my boyfriend, and I made this really sweet deal to go to California and live next door to my brother in the mountains of Santa Cruz and do a work for rent trade. 2 minutes, all right. Do a work for rent trade. And it was like the best deal, and we weren't going to have to pay rent, and we were going to be isolated from coronavirus, and we were super excited. And then the day before we left, we found out that my brother, who lives next door to this property, had been evacuated because of the wildfires, so we couldn't go there. And then the day we were supposed to leave, we woke up in the morning and we were told that our cottage had burned and that we had no home to move to. But we had to move out of our apartment still because there was someone coming the next day. But we decided to just take a day and rearrange things in the storage unit and not bring like my keyboard and my sewing machine and my extra closet thing, and because we didn't have a house to move into. So while we're rearranging things in the U-Haul, 2 houses, about 3 houses down from us on our street, caught on fire. And it was this huge towering inferno, and power lines were exploding, and everyone was running around fucking screaming. People were getting pulled out of the building, vomiting and unable to breathe. And we're like, do we have to pack right now? Do we have to like, is our house going to catch on fire too? Do we have to like get all of our stuff out right now? And so we're watching it. It was a 3-alarm fire. 2 buildings completely destroyed, a house that had 2 families in it with a bunch of kids, who she fled the fire in a minivan, smashing into every car all the way down the road. And then an apartment building with many, many, many occupants, one of whom was wandering the street. So now we're at, if you're keeping track, if you notated the list, we're now at Amy's problems. So I feel like Amy's problems are worth talking about, even though they're not my problems, because Amy was wandering the street. She was on the phone. She was clearly distraught. She was a person who lived in the apartment complex. And I kept asking her if she was okay. And finally, at one point, she said, "Can I please use your bathroom?" And I said, yes. And we went to go into my house to use the bathroom. And she took like 1 step into my stairs and she burst into tears and she started crying. And she told me that she had just moved from San Francisco. And at the end of 2019, her partner had passed away. And then she moved to Chicago. And okay, I'll just finish Amy's problems then. So she had moved to Chicago to recoup and heal from losing her partner, and then she lived out the winter there. Then she went to go back to work, and then coronavirus started. So then she went to Michigan, and then she came back from Michigan and she moved into her apartment, and the next day it burned down with all of her dead partner's belongings inside of it. So she used my bathroom, and I'm only on number 5 on the list. So this is just part 1, I guess. Back to you, Ish.
Hey, oh, right, yeah. I gotta say, well, if you need a part 2, we could do a part 2. Like whenever that, well, I have to say, I mean, does it feel okay saying it? Like, does it feel, because it, I mean, does it make it, I mean, it's like, I feel, I don't know, I feel like I could take it for a minute, and then, you know what I mean? Like you hold it and then it goes a little, like it, or you hold it and it, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know yet, but I think it feels okay. It's nice to see all of these faces, you know, looking back at me while I say these crazy things, you know. So yeah, and if people want to hear the details of the rest of the problems, I'd be happy to come back.
Oh, great. Well, yes. Well, I have, okay. Katie, thank you. I'm so glad to see you, and in spite of everything, like you're such a life force, and I thank you, and I'm grateful that you exist. Well, that was the problem show. Thank you all for tuning in. Oh, good. We've got votes for yes to part 2 from Jonathan. Way to go, Jonathan. Here is the email. Spread the word if you know anybody, and we like to be their outlet. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, I'll be really didactic. That's script krvptproblems@gmail.com. Welcome everybody. I'm so happy that you've all made it here to the problem show. Today, our guest is A.B. Robinson. A.B. Robinson is a poet and communist living in Western Mass. They sometimes wish they were an anchorite like Julian of Norwich, but they don't believe in God. They're great at Boggle and horrible at Scrabble. So Andy, you think you've got problems?
Yes, Ish, I've got problems. Actually, my problem is a poem I wrote last week, and I'm here to tell you about that poem, so I'll just jump right in. I wrote a poem called Transcommunism, and the premise of that poem was simple. A fool tries to find out where the hormones they inject weekly into their thigh muscle come from, in much the same fashion they imagine at first as a child would try to investigate where babies come from. They end up with no answers more specific than a map of the globe colored in with factories or left blank with their absence. It turns out that what they really wanted was to discover the name and life of the person who assembled the kitchen chair they sat on as they researched, to see a picture perhaps of the building where the little glass vials are molded to walk, if only virtually, through the streets of the town. When the world that exists does not admit the world the fool desires, the poem ends. And where the poem ends, my problem begins, because I called the poem Transcommunism. I gave the poem the title half ironically because in truth, I do not think that there is any such thing as trans communism any more than there is Black communism or female communism. There are plenty of Black communists and women communists and trans communists, and we may as a shorthand say Black communism or trans communism to refer to the thought and practice of those communists, to earmark the peculiar struggles and circumstances that lead people to draw the conclusions they draw and act the way that they act. But communism is universalizing and does not admit in the last instance these modifiers except as scar tissue. How useful is it really to note in every instance that my picture of the world and its exploited begins in the plunge of a sterile needle for which I was written a prescription, which connects via 1,000 underground corridors to the tailorized hand-eye mechanics for which I am paid wages, which connects to the big cities where I do not live, which connects to the poor small city where I do live, which connects to the factory worker whose name I cannot learn, to her town, to her wages, thought only negatively as a limit against which my thought, the thought of a fool, rails. Sometimes I think it is very useful, but only as a birth for my departure. If it is the factory that commands the needle and not the other way around, if it is the rent that commands the dance floor, if bombs and textile mills and hungry children command my mastectomy, if the lost poets of flex time and solitary confinement command the shape and scope of my language, needle and dance floor and mastectomy and poetry itself still exist, but look under direct sunlight rather ghostly. I have not even begun to say anything about politics. Some communists think that capitalism has run out of planet, that we are living the end stages of the valorization of value, and some communists think that the capitalist capacity for creative destruction is more profound than these other communists believe, and that left to their own devices, they will burn half the world simply to rebuild the same supermarkets on it, or the same favelas and strip mines. And I think these disputes are interesting but pointless. Even if capitalism collapses and cannot recover, communism is not a foregone conclusion. I do not look forward to the tortures a new ruling class might invent spontaneously from the wreckage of this wreckage. If capitalism doesn't collapse, it will kill most of us in the next century and consign those of us it doesn't kill to the agony of living. Here's my problem. A map of the world blossoming out of a needle and a vial of testosterone appears as if it is the end of thought, And perhaps it is the end of thought, the end of what I can think, of what is thinkable. It is, however, only the germ of a practice, and it is not necessarily even the germ of a practice. We thrash and scream in the chasm between what we know and what we are ready to accomplish. The we is still ill-defined. Emancipated from its doubtful quotation marks, that we transfigures the world, and the transfiguration does not look especially trans. But we will be there, and the we that you have intuited in that we will be there, and I will be there, and the vial will be in my back pocket. That's all I think I have to say about that poem. I don't know, do we still have a little time left on the clock? I'm sorry.
Yes, there's 1 full minute left.
Oh, wow, okay. I don't know if I should just vamp about this for a minute or this is a little more hectoring, I think, than what I wanted to, I think, say. It came out more like a lecture than anything else. But I think we live in a moment that's full of a lot of thrashing and screaming. And in part, you know, I participate in that thrashing and screaming because I don't know what else to do. And I think it seems like a lot of the people around me are in the same position where we see all of the challenges that are in front of us and see how enormous they are and see what we're ready for right now and see that it's not very much and worry about the distance between what we know we have to do and what we know how to do right now. And so I think that's really what I was trying to talk about here.
Yeah, that came through. That was phenomenal. Thank you, Andy. That I think that was stuff. Okay, I think that was beautiful. And okay, yes. Right on. Okay, well, I'm gonna do the fast goodbye now. Hi, thank you all for being on, for coming on to the show. Please, if you would like to participate, we are open. That would be just email cryptproblems@gmail.com. And we salute you all.
Bye.
Oh, guess what? It's 3:05, Justin.
Okay.
What a perfect note. Okay. Hey, hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to the Problem Show. I'm so delighted to introduce for you this week's guest, Justin Dorr. Justin Dorr is an artist, musician, author, and researcher based in Philadelphia, Philly. He was featured in a movie that won an award at the Sundance Festival and wrote a book about a forgotten artist, which was reviewed on a lot of big media outlets. He's currently unemployed due to COVID, but normally pays the bills through house painting and odd jobs. So, Justin, you think you got problems?
I got problems. I got a few problems. They're not really the worst problems in the world. And so I felt a little bit strange about doing a show just talking about my problems for 5 minutes. But so I decided I might make it a little bit more entertaining if I tried to work it into a song. And I think my song's pretty good, but I don't know that it's 5 minutes long. So I'm gonna blab a little bit before I go into the song to try to fill the space time. I get these spam emails. A lot of people probably get these that do anything creative that are like become, scammy things that are like, want to get your art to be famous, like just send us like your social security number or whatever, and I got this one the other day that said, want to break into the music industry, take our workshop, sign up for this online workshop about how to write better songs. So I like the idea that if you just wrote a good enough song, you would break into the music industry. So I'm hoping that this song will be good enough and the chorus will just be powerful enough or whatever, the music industry will just shatter and I'll smash into it. And a couple of years from now, we'll be playing enormous concerts at football stadiums and stuff, after COVID's over, So this is my song about problems. Okay. food. These are problems of small magnitude, like existential dread and regular dread. Probably have problems when I'm dead. That is all just in my head, or so. That's what I said. First world, second world, third world problems. I got problems, don't know how to solve them. First world, second world, third world problems. I got problems, don't know how to solve them. Got a headache, you got a toothache. Pull on your bootstraps, don't be a snowflake. My hands went numb, don't know why. I can't swim and I can't fly. Donald Trump is still alive. I'm afraid I'll lose my mind. Take one step at a time. Act as if it's all just fine. We're living on borrowed time. Just shut up and toe the line. First world, second world, third world problems. I got problems, don't know how to solve them. First world, second world, third world problems. I got problems, don't know how to solve them. First world, second world, third world problems. I got problems, don't know how to solve them. Nuclear proliferation, environmental devastation, personal life frustration. I need a permanent vacation. An evil cloud is overtaking as diseases undertake. All the good ones seem to go. Vampires control the show. Racist corporate elites. At least I got enough to eat. First world, second world, third world problems. I got problems, don't know how to solve them. First world, second world, third world problems. I got problems, don't know how to solve them. I got bloody diarrhea. My speech been closed for about a year. Lose that in my pigeon's food. These are problems of small magnitude. Got existential dread and regular dread. Probably have problems when I'm dead. That is all just in my head, or so. That's what I said. I got a headache, you got a toothache. Pull on your bootstraps, don't be a snowflake. My hands went numb, don't know why. I can't swim, I can't fly. Donald Trump is still alive. I'm afraid I'll lose my mind. Take one step at a time. Act as if it's all just fine. We're living on borrowed time. Just shut up and toe the line. First world, second world, third world problems. I got problems, don't know how to solve them. First world, second world, third world problems. I got problems, don't know how to solve them. Okay, that's the song.
Whoa, yes. Oh my God, that was fantastic. That was
How
so,
am I on time?
you have, if I'm to be a stickler, you have 23 seconds.
Awesome, I did really good. Okay, you can do a little outro then, and that's perfect, you know?
Okay, I'll do a little, okay. Justin, that was fantastic. Okay, I want to, dear friends, thank you so much for showing up. I hope you're as happy as I am. And if you have a problem, hopefully, oh, and if you have a problem and what, oops. Okay, and if you have a problem and would like to vent or express or hopefully that cryptproblems@gmail.com. Okay, I guess that's it. See you next week. Please know that we are friends and will always be friends. And Howard, yeah. Well, hey, David, it's 3:05. Shall we commence?
Let's make it happen.
I'm so delighted. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Problem Show. This week, we have the great honor and happiness to have David A. Kirschenbaum as our guest. David A. Kirschenbaum is the editor and publisher of Boog City, a New York-based small press and community newspaper now in its 30th year, and he is the director of the Welcome to Boog City Arts Festival. He is the author of the July Project, Open 24 Hours, a series of songs about Star Wars set to rock and pop classics. His poems form the lyrics of Preston Spurlock and Casey Holford's band, Gilmore Boys. So, David, you think you've got problems?
Hey, everybody. So I write most of my poems as daily poems and monthly long projects. So I picked out a bunch for you all. These are some that were written on this day. This is from October 25th, 2004. Finally got to the lab to get blood drawn so my psychopharmacologist could check my lithium levels, see how they've changed since he upped my dose by 300 milligrams a day to try and combat the low-level depression I've had for months. I'm seeing him tomorrow, and while I'm in his office, he'll call the lab for the results and give me another script. Number 15 of the 500 or so, assuming I make it to 80, I'll be taking to balance my manic depression. October 25th, 2012. So we published your work, you signed up for our email list, and now you want off of our list because your inbox is overflowing. Just hit the delete key. The overflowing will end soon enough. And here's one from the last presidential election night, November 9th, 2016. In the middle of the night, on the right-hand side of the top shelf of my sister's stainless steel refrigerator, in a small white bakery box, is a chocolate mousse cake with just light blue frosting spelling out, "I'm with her," still unsliced. December 31st, 2017. When I first go for an intake at a psychiatrist's office, one of the questions early on is, are you having suicidal thoughts? And I would always say, I don't want to die. I just don't feel much like living right now. December 22nd, 2018. I'm still drained from the day of throwing up. I think that's how I'm going to refer to it from now on, the day of throwing up. And I've discovered the secret of throwing up. Have a small chair in the bathroom because it's better to throw down from a chair than throw up from the floor. August 11, 2019. I've had a crush on her for years, wondering if I have a crush on her because I have a crush on her or because I need to have a crush on someone and she is it. I saw her for the first time in a while today. I was looking to put dings in my crush of her, but my crush of her is unding-proof. February 7th, 2020. Sometimes when I boog, I put on the Replacements' Let It Be album and play track 7, Unsatisfied, on permanent repeat as I lay out copy, answer emails, attend to the needing attention. The first few listens, I really hear the song, but into the third and fourth plays, it becomes this meditative cry, a call to arms. Look me in the eye and tell me that I'm satisfied. Look me in the eye, unsatisfied. And these last couple are from an in-progress writing project I'm doing with Ian Wilder called Early Returns, Correspondence from the 2020 Campaign Trail. October 13th, 2020. My dad didn't think he was going to make it past 59, the age his father and his father before that died. He didn't do what Mickey Mantle did, whose father and uncle died around 40, which was drink with abandon because he wasn't going to make it past 40 and then have to pay for it later with a liver transplant. My dad's 90 now and I'm 53, living healthier, eating better, losing weight, exercising more of late through the pandemic than I probably have in 52 mask-free years. Not sure how I'm going to make it another 37 plus years. And here's the last one for you. It's October 14th, 2020. Almost 20 years ago, on the eve of an instant zine of Jewish poets in celebration of Hanukkah and a reading in conjunction with it, a reporter for the Jewish Forward came to my apartment and interviewed me. Why are so many of your heroes suicides, he asked, referencing D.A. Levy, Kurt Cobain, and Abby Hoffman. And I don't remember how I answered. Other than that, I hadn't realized that before, but maybe there's some sort of bipolar kinship. I don't know. This Aaron Sorkin Chicago 7 movie debuting Friday has me reflecting on how I'm now older than Abby was when he killed himself, which was partially blamed on Prozac, one of the meds in my present day drug cocktail. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ish. And if you get a chance, go online, boogcity.com. The new baseball issue is launching today.
Oh, David, that was fantastic.
Thanks,
Thank
Ish.
you so much.
Sure.
And well, thank you all for showing up. It's wonderful to see you. Hi, Mary. It's wonderful to see you guys, and I'll see you next week, I hope. And David, you were fantastic.
Thanks, Ish.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye. See you, Greg.
Okay, hello everybody who's watching on Northampton Open Media's Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and live on Channel 12. Welcome to Focus Locus Presents The Problem Show. So we just watched 6 episodes. The episode numbers just for chronology because this is a 15 episode show. So we watched episode 3, episode 4, episode 5, episode 7, episode 8, and episode 10. And there are now 17 episodes. Is that right?
That is correct.
Great. So I am, as you can already guess, I'm joined by Ish and Greg, Ish Klein and Greg Purcell, who is behind me right now in our little screenshot on the live stream. And I'm really excited to talk about the problem show.
We're excited to talk about it.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So can you sort of give me an idea of where this idea originally came from, and yeah, just tell me about the birth of this show a little bit.
Sure thing. Well, for a little while, I was kind of thinking about the ethics of conversation in a way, but not well. Let me try to about like what things you can say and what things you can't say, and when they're how to find out about what people are going through when it's hard to ask people questions. That was another thing. And then so when we were talking to our friends Mark and Melissa and Greg, and I said, I'm going to have a television show where a person can just talk about their problems for 5 minutes. And that I think that maybe it's like naive to think that people will talk about themselves easily. I don't think it's easy for people, but I thought, well, at least this way, if a person wanted to, they could. And it would be helpful to know, because it's really hard to know what people are feeling.
Yeah. I think that I was thinking a lot sort of about, I like that phrasing of the ethics of conversation, especially on this rewatch, because every episode is very different and people sort of take the prompt very differently. Has it been, I guess, what were you sort of expecting, and what has surprised you about how the show has actually turned out?
I was expecting more struggles. Like, I was expecting people talking more personally about struggles, but then, but when I did the first show, I realized, gee, I didn't really talk about things that I was all that afraid of. So, I mean, I had some misconceptions, even how it would go. What surprised me, what delighted me was that, like in Caroline and Jonathan's show, I really appreciated their skepticism, because I feel like, it's sort of a fishy thing, like to commend, like to try to get an honest, like to try to find out to try to share the whole's problems as vented through one person. You could stop me or
no,
go.
I just think the reason Americans don't like to talk about the problems is because once you open up that valve, it's hard to close it back up. 5 minutes is a pretty good amount of time. And in fact, we try to be a little abrupt about the way we end the show. Everyone says goodbye. Ish presents her, I'm like the roadie. I'm just helping Ish see her vision through. So, but she does give me hosting duties when everything starts to roll, so she can pay attention to things.
Zoom. They Zoom.
On Zoom, yeah. So I like to, I don't like to linger after the show is done. I usually end the meeting. And it's one of the kind of advantages of Zoom, among the many disadvantages, is that you can, at a reading or anything that would be like this, you'd show up and then everybody would linger. Well, you had some problems, didn't you? Yeah, I had some problems. Could you allow, you just, the kind of small talk around the heart rending problem you just described. So I really like just clicking the button after it's all done.
That's Greg's job, because I am not that good at ending. Like, I'm not that good at transitioning from here to there, if that makes sense.
With that said, we have struggled a little bit to get people to come on and talk.
It's not
sometimes,
easy.
Yeah.
Acknowledged it isn't easy.
Well, yeah. Sometimes we get people at the very last minute, and a couple of weeks we'd had to just not have a show because
people are busy.
People are busy. But no, it's not that they're busy. I think it's because people are reluctant to talk about their problems.
Yeah, maybe. Possible.
But maybe they're also busy. I don't know.
I just thought it's hard to get the word out. I mean, I'd like to get the word out a little, like in the sort of way that, somebody will be like, oh God, nobody knows I exist and I suffer, and I would like that person to be like, give me 5 minutes, and we'd be like, yeah, we're here for you. That's the dream. Like that the guest will be random and needing it, like that they'll really need it. They'll really have wanted somebody to witness their situation.
But what we really had are, in the best possible sense, the kind of exhibitionists who turn out to be poets or actors.
No, I would phrase that differently. I would say our guests are from the pool of people we know and love, and they're artists. Like they're
exhibitionists.
Okay, well that's a different way of. I don't think art is. I don't think being an artist is. Well, okay, whatever. So. All right.
I phrased it in the best possible way. I think that any artist is sort of an exhibitionist. A little bit.
Maybe you're right, but it's got negative connotation. Exhibitionism is negative connotation because there's a compulsive component to exhibitionism, I think. I could be wrong about that, but I think
you're right. That's also really interesting as sort of the idea of sort of the ideal guest being someone just random. And I hope doing this will get you some people, because I really like the sign with the email. I think that's like, I don't know, something about it feels very old TV show in a way, old talk show.
Right. Be good. Yeah, like Uncle Floyd. I don't know if you've ever seen that. That's a very old show from the deep past, and I believe it's out of New Jersey, but this fella's name was Uncle Floyd, and he's still alive, and he does has a novelty band, but he used to have a television show. That guy's great.
Cool. I'll check that out. I did want to ask, I have a lot of things to ask, but I think that I'm really interested in what having the live Zoom audience. You talked a little bit about this too, also with like sort of the idea of like the sharp cutoff that Zoom allows you to do, where it's just the 5 minutes. And I know that when you do the show, you have people, like it's an open Zoom meeting. So I was wondering if you could talk about, what that format has sort of meant to the show, and just tell me about that.
Would you like to answer? I could answer, but you can start. I didn't mean to shut you down with the.
No, I don't have any. We're novices at Zoom. I guess everybody is, but we maybe have learned a little less from our experiences than others, meaning we just do the same thing over and over again. There may be a better way to do it, but this is the way we do it. And I don't think that you could do a live show with a time constraint as strict as the one that we presented.
You right. We couldn't do this as easily live. The nice thing about the Zoom is that all you have to do is have a phone, and you could be on the show. You could be anywhere. You could sort of like, what I like about it is that I've been trying to think, not trying to think, but I've been thinking about like how to do more performative stuff with the context of Zoom, these little windows, and this I think is a good form. I always use an iPad, which I don't know if I recommend because it makes it really hard to participate in the chat. Yeah, I think Zoom is a really good format because a person can be anywhere and still participate. Like they could be in the backseat of a car or, yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about the soap opera you've been writing for Zoom?
Oh,
I'm writing a soap opera for Zoom called Chambers, and I'm excited about it. But I don't want to be a bore.
That sounds fascinating. If you want to talk about that.
Oh, I love you. Yeah, it's okay. So here's the background, just to put it in context. There's a woman. There was a real live woman named Elizabeth Hodge who was hit with a meteor that came crashing through her window ceiling in 1954.
She's the only person to have survived a meteor hit.
Actually, not true. In 1994, there was a young German boy who was hit by like a marble-sized meteor and it knocked him off his feet. He was the second one, but she was the first that we know about.
That's what I said, the first.
Oh, I thought you said only.
Oh, maybe I did. Okay, sorry.
But anyway, so I'm taking this character as my central person because that meteor didn't really help her life. She had economic challenges. They were renting a house, and she and her partner thought that this meteor would be their ticket to riches and glory. But it wasn't, because her landlord said since it came crashing through her house, because that it was her meteor, and there was a big fracas about that. So how does that relate to the soap opera? Well, that character is now the star of Chambers soap opera, and it's all sort of about her getting acclaim. And all the bad things actually meaning something valiant and excellent now. So it kind of begins with this stressed out conversation that she's having with these other people. And then it ends with the first meteor hit. And then, so I've only got this first episode, but the second episode is called Betrayal. And it's basically a monologue about how she was betrayed and her feelings of every betrayal that had ever happened. And I'm kind of hoping she could vent for a lot of people, because I think betrayal is like one of the themes of soap operas, which is also a problem, like that people have, like the sense of betrayal makes, like when that is deep within you, it's really hard to move on, or move on, whatever that means. But like it's hard to get beyond it. So Chambers is all about going from one room to another room where people sort of change their identities, and kind of it's supposed to go from a melodramatic tragedy into a comedy of an absurdist comedy. But I don't want you to think that I'm ever making fun of the subject matter. I actually think all of it is really affecting. Like I think these are all genuine. Like even if you're lying to yourself, if you're compulsively lying to yourself in a negative way, you're suffering. You know what I mean? So I feel like, well, that's serious, and that's what this is about. It's sort of about like people in these singular fugues. But my hope is at the end for a kind of convergence into something like at the end of No Exit. At the end of No Exit, when all of the characters start laughing, they kind of realize, oh, we can only take so much of this. Like they have to just like, they sort of like beat themselves out of their shells in a way. And they, I guess at the end, they sort of just realize, oh, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's not for anybody else to say that. Like, I'm hoping that'll be a journey that the actors will like to take. We'll see, fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's.
Also, go ahead, please.
I was gonna say that sounds incredible. Please continue, Greg, if you'd like.
I was just going to add that I think they should call soap operas problem stories.
Problem story. Yeah, they could. We could.
What you doing, Greg? Oh, I'm just watching my problem stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, that character seems like the ideal problem show guest in a way. Like.
Yeah. She got so much attention and she was really actually pretty shy. Like, but you see, it was the middle of the day and it broke her radio. The meteor came through the ceiling. It smashed her radio. I think that's interesting. And then smacked her in the side of the body. And, people from all over, this was, I believe, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. People from all over were like seeing this fireball in the sky ending at her house, the house she was renting.
Wow.
Yeah, I think so too, because like, I just don't think she got the heroic treat. I don't think she was able to like take advantage of heroism when it was, and that's like, it's all in the framing.
I'm curious to know, as someone who deals with broadcast television and videography, how are you incorporating Zoom into Northampton Community Television's operations?
Well,
and how smooth is it there?
This show has been sort of my biggest foray into Zoom production. And I think there's something kind of interesting about it where I don't know, there's something about it that's so isolating and empty in a way, where it's like I'm just sitting here in my house looking at a screen, but it also has it kind of feels like, I wrote down in my notes while watching the problem show actually that I felt like the episode with Katie Simpson, I think it's her name, that, because that's an incredibly difficult episode. That's really hard. It's very raw. The way that she presents stuff is like, I don't know. It's like the way that she's open is so unfamiliar in a way, but also, yeah, affecting. And I wrote that it feels kind of like a replacement for sitting in a coffee shop and talking to your friend while also knowing that there's like 30 other people in the coffee shop who could very well just be eavesdropping. And I think, and I feel like the like open Zoom format and is similar to this show, where I have had some really incredible conversations with artists, like people who've made media who I've gotten to talk to, where things sometimes get incredibly intense and it's just me and them alone in the Zoom room. We're in a very full Zoom room right now for everyone watching. We have a lot of different guests who I would like to, original guests from the problem show who I'd like to ask about their experience at some point. But yeah, it feels, it's very panopticon in a way.
Yeah. It's strange because we were living at the very northern edge of Chicago when the pandemic hit, long before we ever heard of Zoom. And we were a little, not only far away from people in Chicago, but far away from other friends, and starting to feel a little disconnected. Is that true or false?
No, I think
you were a little more connected because you were doing theater things, but I was just teaching from home already, and doing all of my work from home. And I was starting to float away like a balloon. And Zoom was actually really grounding for me. I started talking to people a lot more again. I'm almost a little worried. I mean, I want the pandemic to go away as soon as possible, but I'm also a little worried about what happens when we no longer need Zoom. What am I going to do? I'm still working from home. I'm going to probably continue doing most of my work from home.
Well, it won't go away. You could still Zoom.
Sure, yeah.
Because so many people we know are really far away.
But everyone's captive. People Must have Zoom.
Yeah, right. Good point.
Well,
Yeah. I don't know what we'll do.
Yeah. I want to keep talking about the show. What was making the musical episode like? Did you know he was gonna pull out the guitar before you got there?
Yeah, I know Justin. I used to live in Philadelphia. But he said that he'd like to do a song. And I was like, oh, great, that'll be really good. Because he's in many bands with Mandy, who's my friend, and they're super close with each yeah, no, that was fantastic. I love that episode. It's a really good song too. I would like it if it broke into the record industry, like the way yeah, if it smashed into it like you
Well,
said.
did you ever think about asking them to use that song as your theme song for the show?
Oh, that's a great idea.
That is a good idea. Yeah, I'll ask. He's pretty busy. Like, yeah, I'll ask. I could ask. That's easy.
As far as sort of more specific episodes, we watched Greg's episode where you list 40 jobs with some of the most sort of I think my favorite part is some of the reasons for getting fired, like the paper, the making the receipts into paper dolls and the giant subway roll.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about why you chose that format for your episode? What was that like?
Well, we actually it was the third episode, is that right?
I think it's the
fourth.
It was the fourth. And we just didn't have anyone that week. So I had to come up with something that evening. The evening before, I thought, I started writing a little mini essay, and the same thing happened to me as I described earlier. Once you open the valve on your problems, you can begin to elaborate on them forever. And I realized I wasn't going to have anything very concise. I had a long preamble that would have taken 5 minutes to read. And I thought, well, what do I hate the most? And it always comes back to various jobs I've had. Not all of the jobs I listed were ones I hate. In fact, I like the work I'm doing right now, other than the isolation of, talking to students entirely on Blackboard. But some of them are just experiences that I still recall with horror, and I wonder what it would be like for people, what it's like for people who work one job and get paid enough to live off of that job.
Oh yeah.
That would be amazing. Right now I have 3 jobs, and that in and of itself is a problem. Each one of them occupies some weird nebulous corner of my life. Like I say, I kind of like the work I'm doing in each case. But yeah, I mean, what prompted it? The nature of work itself is a little bit of a problem, and people have a very hard time communicating those problems to someone else. That is, in a way, the source of many people's problems. And also, we've really been trained not to really talk about the specifics of our job. That comes down to like a very ideological and direct interference from our employers, who don't want us comparing our salaries, and don't really want us doing anything but competing with each other for those jobs. So having had 40 jobs in my life was the biggest problem I could think of, and you couldn't be more concise than to simply list them. Though I think, the biggest failure of the whole thing in terms of time constraints. I think mine went on to 7.5 minutes.
Well, the problem also was that I was the guy who stopped it, and I didn't do that. I didn't do the speedy. I didn't do the leave meeting. It kind of staggered on.
That could have been interesting if I had just been cut off mid-job.
Well, I don't. Yeah, but if people feel like they're gonna get cut off, they won't be on the show.
Fair enough. It's
I don't
a
know. Love him.
technical issue.
We're still working out the bugs. Like we're still figuring it out. I would like it to go to 100 episodes at least. You know, that seems like something that could happen.
Oh.
It doesn't seem like too big a dream, you know, and then be like, okay, those are the 100 problems of Earthlings. Like,
All the problems they could have.
yeah. Yeah.
I think it could definitely get to 100 episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, hopefully.
It'd
You've
be
been trucking right along. I get a new one every week. It's very exciting when there's a new problems episode.
We have some, Richard is going to do one on January 17th, but we're still looking for people this week. So we'll see. I've got to get a little more on that. I got to spread the word more.
Well, if you're anyone watching right now, the problem show email is krvptproblems@gmail.com, right?
Yes, that is it.
Yeah.
And we'd love to hear from you.
I had something that you said, Greg, was really interesting about, I feel like people sort of don't really have the right language even to talk in America specifically to talk about the source of their problems or even just the feeling of having problems. And I think that makes this show and all the different ways that people sort of try and get at that very interesting. I know we have Caroline and Jonathan from episode 3 in the Zoom room. I feel like we should talk about that episode because I think it's a very big departure from the other formats of shows. And I'd love to hear from Ish and Greg and Caroline and Jonathan. If you two are interested in contributing, no need to if you don't want to.
Oh, sure.
Did you know that you would be interviewed for this?
No.
No.
Well,
Eating dinner, like not wearing underwear, but I'm totally down for this interview.
Sorry to pull you in, but
Oh, we've got lots to say.
so I'm curious. What did you? Why did you guys decide to be on the problem show?
Well, first of all, we love you guys a lot, and Crypt and the other Crypt. But also, Jonathan and I, all we do all day long is what we staged for Zoom, and so it felt like I think all we've ever wanted is like an audience for our private texts.
We should say you didn't receive proper introductions. Both Carolyn and Jonathan were members of the Connecticut River Valley Poets Theater, CRVPT.
Yeah, you guys are running it.
They're kind of ringers.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was proud to be. I was proud to be able to read that. Those texts really blew my mind. They really cracked me up too. You know, they were both funny and well, when you talked about the good death, like your friend's father's good death, like where there was no suffering, there was something so chilling about it in a way, but like it felt, yeah, that was really interesting.
You guys should start a YouTube channel with just your texts.
Yeah.
Best text of the week.
They are the
best text. The best text vlog.
I'd air it on TV if you do that. So
that's actually a great idea. We're definitely gonna do that.
Oh yes. Yeah, I will watch it. I will watch the YouTube.
I don't know. We've gotten into trouble because of our texting. So
I mean,
just no one likes to get 100 texts in an hour, and we're infamous for that. So
yeah, don't ask to be on a group chat with us. You'll regret it.
Yeah, we love line breaks.
With Jonathan, many memes have been shared.
What's that?
Any memes have been shared.
Oh, of course.
Well, the trouble is when you get both of us on the same group text, and then it turns into basically our private text, but with like an audience of like 2 or 3, and then I'll get like private texts from like somebody in the group that's like, hey, can you take me off? Like, can you stop? Like, I don't want all these texts. Like, or there will be like a screenshot of their like phone, and it'll be like iMessage with like the little 400 bubble, like they've gotten 400 texts, and it's just for me and Jonathan.
But I think when we heard that you all were doing the Problems show, we were just like, this of course is a natural fit for us. We're sort of like infamous for complaining, the two of us. I feel like we've gotten into trouble because we like to complain. That was always like my teacher's biggest complaint about me, like growing up in grade school. They were always, have the parent-teacher conferences with my parents and say, Jonathan is, doing okay otherwise, but he complains so much. And I've never known how not to complain. It just feels like, the air I breathe. It's just so natural to me. And so it's, yeah, it feels so good. And I mean, I'm interested in the way that you all are talking about how we Americans, like, folks don't have that many spaces where they can air their complaints, their problems. And I feel like Caroline and I have never had that issue. But the problem there is that we feel comfortable complaining, but the audience often isn't there, or the audience is not receptive to it.
You ever get to that point? Because I've been to this point where you get into this comfortable groove with a person, you find a good complaint partner, right? And you get into this groove where you're like entertaining each other, and at a certain point, even if you're going to continue, at a certain point within the particular exchange, it goes sour, and you realize you're not going to solve the complaint.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Right.
How does it go? How does that happen? How could it go sour?
Well, it's delightful to find someone else that you can complain with. I mean, there's a delight to that where, I mean, you and I are.
Yeah, we complain.
Yeah.
We
So,
complain.
right. But at a certain point, you can find yourself in a position where, oh, I've heard this person say this more than once. And the other person's like, oh, yeah. And there's a shrugging sense of like,
Oh, no.
well, all right. Maybe this will be entertaining again, but it's not entertaining now. And it usually is entertaining again. Maybe it's just the recognition that what you've been doing and complaining is just entertaining each other.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like at the point where Jonathan and I notice that it's gone sour in that way, that's when we just start cursing at each other. And then somebody and then we have to Zoom about it.
That's great. That's fantastic.
We had a meta problem when we were doing the Problems show, which is that we got trolled, which maybe you might remember the really mean comment that put in the chat.
I don't know if I remember it.
I'm going to out him right now, but my friend James showed up and he made his Zoom name just like a period, just like a dot, and he came and he turned his camera off. And the way that Jonathan and I did this obviously was that it came out of an actual text exchange, but then in order to make it work in 5 minutes, we copied and pasted everything into a Google Doc and like practiced like texting each other several times to make sure that it was like under 5 minutes. And that really long part about my friend's dad who killed himself, I just put it in the chat and pressed send, and like it couldn't like if I'd actually been typing it out, it would have taken a lot longer to type that because it's kind of like a paragraph. And just in the middle of our cause it felt like, I don't know if you felt this way, Jonathan, but I felt like we were in the hot seat. Like the pressure was really on. We had to do this so fast. And it was like,
I don't know if you can see it, but like sweat was dripping down my back.
Dripping, yeah. I was like, my hands were numb and it was horrible.
Yeah. And then just this comment shows up in the chat from this Dot that says, Caroline, I think you could have done a better job. That was obviously canned. Try harder next time.
Oh, I didn't. If we had seen it, we would have blocked them or gotten rid of them or something.
That would be so good if you kicked James out of the Zoom. He really deserved that. And that, like, that's why it says at the end of our thing in the texts, it's like, thank you, James, or hi, James, or something like that. Like Jonathan like called out James like a little bit, because we that's who the period was. But that caused a problem. Like afterwards, like you should have seen the text that I sent James. I was like, I tried to get off the group text thread that I was in with James, and like it was like a big, and then like somebody else on the group text had to like tell him to call me and apologize. It was like this whole thing.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, we're a little more. I mean, honestly, the way we do the Zoom is we just turn it on as if we ask everybody to mute themselves, but we don't really police it. And it's like,
yeah, we better get on that.
We are, in fact, like whenever we go to somebody else's Zoom, like institutional Zoom, it's like, oh wow, they're really under control here. They have we're on when they say we're on. You know, and that's it. It's like, oh, maybe we should learn how to do that.
It would be hilarious if you like created community guidelines for the problem show, like for your audience, like five, like how to behave.
An interesting idea.
Ish is writing that idea.
I'm just writing down community guidelines just to challenge myself in that concept.
We have a bunch of other people in here. Also, we have, I don't want to call them out live if they don't want to speak at all, but if anyone else wants to sort of comment on being on the show and the experience of being on the show. Anybody?
Interesting. I see. I see a limited number of people here. I don't see everybody.
Yeah, we've there's been sort of a turnover at some point. This has been kind of a long Zoom. I feel like Zoom fatigue has become very real.
Yeah.
Another good reason for the 5-minute problem show format is that it's a quick shot of Zoom and then it's over.
Boom. That's it.
Yeah. You don't need to have a subscription. It could just 30 minutes takes care of it.
Great. So I feel like we've been sort of all over the place with this conversation, which makes sense because with the format of the show and the sort of variety of emotions that the show is capable of causing in the audience, I think it makes sense. So I guess what, I know you said you want to get to 100 episodes. Are you sort of thinking of trying anything new, or is it just, are we just go into 100?
Just gonna go to 100 because I will rely on the guests to bring something new. Everybody does bring something new anyway, I mean, I could definitely I should probably maybe work on my public speaking a little, and get a little more polished. But otherwise, I think like it's only 83 more people, and that's not that many. And I mean, well, we'll see. I mean, it's possible that it's just, we'll have to see what the response is. If it dies a natural death, I won't put it on life support.
I was going to say that I really enjoy you as a host. I think that there are I think watching the Problems show as a, as a television product, not a product, but as, I don't know, from the perspective of someone who loves film and sort of thinks about these things. And as I'm sure most people are, but I don't know. I think that you're a great host, and I really love that episode with Katie talking about incredibly intense things, and also I really love the episode with Justin and the song. Like I think the way that you react to all of these things is incredibly sincere, and I think it's a delight. I think you're a delightful host. I wanted to say.
Oh, thank you, Liz.
I second that. If you went to Toastmasters and learned how to hide your empathy, it'd be much less interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, but I might go to Toastmasters anyway,
Yeah, why
because
not?
I would like to not have so many staggering moments, if that makes sense. And also, it would be good to organize my thoughts a little better. But thank you for the vote of confidence. I'm glad that my hosting didn't put you off, you know, and yeah, I'll keep doing it, you know, keep doing it as long as we can.
It is a really great show. I'm really glad it exists, and I hope there will be 100 episodes.
Well, again, maybe if we're concluding, maybe we can just put that email address up one more time to anybody who's interested. Should
I put it in the chat? Would you like me?
Yeah, put it in the chat.
I'll put it in our other chats as well on Twitch and everywhere, so people.
There we go. Yeah, it would be great because yeah, I mean, you know, you can interpret how to present your problems and how to talk about them in many different ways. There's as we've all learned, I think there's 1,000 ways to disguise your problems by talking about your problems, and we're not judgmental in that regard.
Oh no, we couldn't be. We have to be open to whatever. That's like part of our community guideline, like our personal community guideline is like, it's really supposed to be an outlet.
We love all the poets who have come on.
Yeah.
But I would say the one restriction I would say is I prefer people to just talk about their problems rather than read their poems. Not that we'd ever say no to anybody, you know?
Sure, you're entitled to that opinion.
Okay.
Like, I think that's totally fine that you feel that way.
All right. Do you want to say anything else? Any last things that you want to plug or whatever for our audience?
Do you think of anything? Well,
Problem show is every Sunday.
Problem show is every Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, I mean, email and I will put you on the list if you would like to be part of the live Zoom audience. You don't have to have a problem if you would just like to be part of the audience. That would be great too. Matter of fact, that would be fabulous. Let's see. We're
playing the Copacabana.
Yeah,
we're not going outside at all. We have nothing. we have nothing tangible to plug.
We don't have anything other, but we're really happy. Liz, we're really happy that you put us on your show. And thank you, because Focus Locus is so great. I've got to say, thank you. I salute you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, to our live studio audience and to our live stream audience, have a good night, everybody, and I'll see you on. I think the next episode of this is next Wednesday, but stay tuned, and thank you all for watching, and check out the Problem Show. You can search KRVPT Problems on YouTube, Crypt Problems, and you'll find the YouTube channel, and you can watch all the other episodes. All right, I'm going to take us off the stream.
All right, Happy New Year.
Okay, Happy New Year. Thanks.